Let me hit record and on three, two, one. We are speaking with a Canadian legend, Randy Bachman, from, of course, Bachman Turner Overdrive, The Guess Who, and host of Vinyl Tap, which is a great, great show. I've been listening to a couple of episodes. I love the stories you tell, but as we say here in Montreal, bonjour, Randy. How are you?
I'm very good.
And
Très bien, as I say.
très bien, très bien. And as always, we have a co-host, Alan Niven. Alan,
Hi, Alan.
bonjour.
Hi, Alan.
Pleasure to meet you, Randy.
Nice.
So, Randy, let's talk about this event that's coming up on December 17th. You're doing like basically a live stream with your son Tal. It's going to be in part with the TD Toronto Jazz Festival. You're going to be covering storytelling. You're going to be doing the greatest hits from your bands. Talk to me about this event and what it means to you to actually get out there and be able to play in these COVID times.
Well, when everything kind of shut down, probably last spring, Sal's partner, Erico, um, does makeup and hair in Victoria, and we're doing a lot of movie people and television. They were shut down. So she came and said, do you want to do a YouTube broadcast? All these guys are out of work. This guy does sound. This guy has cameras. They want to work. I said, well, okay, what do we do? Why don't I just go and do a Wayne's World or something with two acoustic guitars and goof around? So we tried it. And it was basically a train wreck. So we ended up calling it our Friday night train wreck because Tal, my son, is like 25 years younger than me. I was 25 when he was born. So he brings songs that he grew up with. I might have heard them, but I was on the road at the time and I've never played to a Queen song, or do you know what I mean? I've heard them and vice versa. He's never really played to Chuck Berry or Elvis and he's heard them. So if I show up with 5 or 6 songs, he's vaguely heard them. When I ask him to sing with me, they're in the wrong key, or I'm trying to sing with him and what he's picked, Tears for Fears or something like that, and it's the wrong key. And so we change keys in the middle of the songs, and it's just like now, it's like informal. There's nothing planned. We might sketch out lyrics or two because we're not complete idiots, but we've never really rehearsed these songs. And now we're into our 36th or 7th or 38th week where we've done these. And because of that, somebody somewhere saw it and asked us to do Bachman and Bachman as father and son. We also got asked to do an album. We're doing an album out of Nashville as Bachman Bachman. It's going to be Americana, like folky mountain country rock kind of thing. And we're doing our own hits jazz style now because of our Bachman Bachman broadcast. So out of this has evolved a couple of new careers or whatever.
A
And
whole cottage industry of Bachman.
exactly.
Hey,
The first,
but
the first
before I hand it over to Alan, let me just ask you this. What's it mean to play with your son? Because I know a lot of guys that now have played with their sons. Whether you look at Eddie Van Halen, who played with Wolfgang, where you look at, and there's just something very special and unique about having that moment. Just quickly talk to me about being able to look at him in the eye and go, "All right, son, 1, 2, 3, start the song."
it's quite amazing. And I would liken it back to you're driving down the road, driving down the highway, and you see a truck and it'll say Simpson and Son. And the guy's in there driving and his son's next to him. You know what I mean? They're electricians or whatever. So there is that pride. Um, Tal has played off and on in my bands all the time. He grew up playing drums when he was 3 or 4 or 5, then switched to guitar, then piano. He's mastered every single instrument just because it's in him. He hasn't really had formal lessons. And I would call him out of the blue and say, my drummer just broke his leg. Can you show up tomorrow and drum for 3 weeks? Okay, Dad. And he'd show up with no rehearsal and know every drum lick in the Guess Who or BTO song. And then, hey, I got asked to do an album. I need a producer. Do you want to produce me? Help me sing because I'm not a great singer. Okay, Dad. So he's been playing in my band now for 3 or 4 years. When I did the By George album, which is me reinterpreting George Harrison songs for George's 75th birthday. And obviously, I'm not going to do Taxman to sound like Taxman or something to copy the Beatles. I had to reinvent them, do like jazz, cooler chords or different blues and shuffle arrangement. I got him to help me when I was performing that. So natural evolution, when the COVID shut down, I said, hey, Erico's got a closer shop in Victoria. You're coming out here once a week to do our YouTube. Why don't you just move into this half of my house? I'll stay here. We'll share the studio, which is where I am now. If you can see the BTO rug behind me on the wall there, I don't know if you can
Yeah.
see that.
Oh, I can see that, and I'm loving every minute of it. I love that.
So
That is great.
all the guitars are here and everything. So we've set up like a camera studio, a Zoom place. Um, it's turned into a production center. Now I'm doing corporate gigs in the States for 200, 300 guys that are interactive, where they want to hear the stories behind my songs. So what we're doing as broadcasts are also now coming up as real legitimate gigs where people are at home on their laptops and they can ask me questions and we answer. And we're more than treading water. We're actually going somewhere upstream, so to speak.
You're
And it's really
reinventing the wheel. It's
it's
perfect.
fun to find a silver lining in this cloudy. Just open a drawer of clouds, and there's maybe a silver lining.
There's a great silver line. Alan, let me go to you. What question do you have for Randy?
Well, that's a lovely story. I love the organic nature of the development of the project. That's awesome. And forgive me, Randy, if I'm getting into something that's personal and you don't want to deal with, but my stepson, while we're talking of sons, my stepson had converted to Mormonism and LDS, which, given some of the alternatives, I'm delighted with.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking you're LDS too? And did you find that difficult being in the rock and roll environment and milieu to keep your spiritual line straight?
Well, I was very lucky that I became LDS in 1966. I met a gorgeous woman, beautiful. That's why guys change. You change your attitude, your religion. You meet a chick, the women really don't change. Guys, when I say to a guy, "Why do you live in Saskatoon?" Well, I met a chick. The guy's from Toronto. Well, you're from Nashville. Why do you live in Moose Jaw? Burton Cummings. Why are you in Moose Jaw? I met a chick. That kind of thing. So,
An American woman.
I meet this gorgeous woman, and she's LDS. So I convert. Big deal. You don't drink or smoke. Great. I'm allergic to smoke. I don't drink. I've never done a drug or smoked or drank in my life. So for me, that's fine. I haven't even drank coffee in my life. Okay. So that doesn't matter. But I found that through those years with the Guess Who and BTO, which were the heavy drug years, like late 60s into 70s, and I was the only guy who was like straight and sober, I took care of business all the time for every band. We didn't have a manager. I'd get the money in a paper bag. Then it was $1 to get into your gig. You play a gig for 2,000 people. You have $2,001 bills. I'd count them out and I'd go into the bank, deposit it in the bank, and then go on to the next day with. I didn't have a briefcase because people steal briefcases. But if it's a brown paper bag that looks like your lunch, they're not going to steal your lunch. And so I came to that whole era of time unscathed and being straight and alive, because I'm such an addictive personality. I've had shrink after shrink after shrink tell me that if I had indulged in those things, I would be dead by now. I just keep doing something and doing like so. If you choose rock and roll and that's it, you just keep doing it, all its offshoots of country rock and jazz rock and progressive rock and acoustic rock. You just keep doing it and you feed off it, and it kind of it's a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Well, it's kept your vitality and vibrancy up, Randy.
Both Tal and I left the church about 10 years ago, but we still feel it in us. We just didn't want to go anymore. We didn't like it. We didn't like some of the things that had happened. So,
well, for a tea bag, it would have been very difficult for me to give up my cup of tea.
Right.
Let me just quickly ask you, and we'll get back to the show here. But you did an album in 1979 with Jim Vallance, and I'm friends with Jim. I've gone out and seen him at Pretty Woman in New York. We write each other. Talk to me about that team and working with Jim at that time, because he really has become a prominent writer and a prominent person in the industry. Talk to me about your experience with Jim and ultimately working with Bryan Adams when he was, I guess, 17. They co-wrote that song Rock and Roll Hell.
I was not part of that, so you're mistaken on that.
You weren't part. Oh, I'm terribly sorry about that.
When I left BTO and the Shattered Pieces, they went and got Jim Clench on guitar, on bass,
and they got Randy Bachman
with the album.
Oh, well, look at me making a mistake.
I'm a big fan of Jim Vallance. He's Canada. Him and Bryan are Canada's two greatest songwriters.
They really are, and it's a shame that I look at that. I made a boo boo. But let me get back to Alan. Alan, go ahead with your next question.
Say to me, what was it like to play the White House with the Guess Who? I left, and then they played the White House.
Well,
I would, if I was with them, I would have played American Woman, even though Richard Nixon said don't play that song. I would have launched into it. We would have had all the press because Burton Cummings said when he succumbed to the pressure and didn't play American Woman at the White House, they lost all their cred with all the cool hippie underground people. That American Woman was the Canadian song that was protesting America and the Vietnam War.
Well, the first thing that's stunning to me, Randy, is that you got the invite to the White House in the first place, given that. But, you know,
right, but he had left by then.
The Guess Who were Tricia Nixon's favorite band, apparently, and she liked American Woman.
Oh, well, it was a shame that it wasn't there, and a shame that you didn't play it.
I think the other two guys had been in the band a week. They just went to the White House for fun.
That is great. In terms of the Toronto Jazz, so torontojazz.com is where we're going to find this show on December 17th. In terms of this one, you've done, like you said, 37, 38. Is it just something that you keep going? And how is it to do the streaming thing? Because you said you're moving forward. You're not treading water. Do you see yourself maybe just getting off the road and saying, you know what, I'm kind of happy just sitting at home. It's not, the travel's much better this way. Do you see that as the way moving forward?
I do. I've spoken to a lot of guys this morning. I was up at 6 this morning because all my people are in Toronto and I'm on the West Coast. We were rearranging the Bachman Cummings tour, which is supposed to be this coming June and July. It's now bumped to August, September, because they're looking at excuse me, they're looking at vaccinations coming, right, and America healing. And what they're saying is, and this is cool, the Roaring Twenties are going to be the Roaring Twenties. That the other Roaring Twenties came after some pandemic where hundreds of thousands of people were killed and nobody went out and everybody had money in the bank. Now, if you're earning money, your savings account are growing. You have nothing to spend it on, nowhere to go. The minute you can go, you and your lady or you or your buddies are all going to want to get dressed up and go to a rock concert or a movie or out for dinner. We can't go anywhere. That's going to be the Roaring Twenties again. Can you imagine that? We get to live through the Roaring Twenties after the acid 60s and the 70s. We get to actually live it might be the Roaring Twenties again, where music and everything is just, and fashion and everything becomes crazy.
Well, yeah, we're definitely getting into a stage of what am I going to say? We're definitely going to, innovation is the word I'm looking for, because right. Listen, and you're right about that. I go out and cover rock bands, and I have these huge bills for hotels, and I have these huge bills for all this stuff, and I've been sitting at home since March. I've got much more money in the bank. I'm happy this way.
Yeah.
Alan, go ahead.
Well, if we get the Roaring Twenties, Randy, please let's not end in 1929.
No.
I mean, are you a historian? I'm a bit of a historian, and okay, Roaring Twenties, fine. That'll probably see me out, but I probably won't care if it's another 29. But God forbid that we have that again.
You're right. No, like I said, we're rolling with the punches coming up, but I'm all ready for touring with Burton Cummings next fall. Then maybe a Bachman Turn Overdrive tour, and then my album with my son Bachman will come out, and we'll be touring down south, down in the Nashville area with Keith Urban or Emmylou Harris or somebody like that.
That would be great. And we'll start wrapping up on this, but just quickly talk to me about the importance of making new music. Because listen, you could go out and you could do American Woman, and you could do Taking Care of Business. You could do all the songs that you're known for, and you don't have to do anything else. So talk to me about still wanting to be creative, still wanting to put pen to paper, still wanting to get into a studio, whether it's with your son or not your son, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make 10 new tracks, because you don't have to.
No, there's something about going to the edge and just jumping. It's a dark room. You don't know where you're going. Are you going to land on glass or a big, beautiful ocean of foam or something and not get hurt? There's something about going to that edge. I've had a really great life having maybe 15 hit songs that everybody knows, that I can go out and play them, but they want to hear them exactly note for note, exactly like the records. If not, it's a failure. I'm the same way. If I go to see Neil Young, I don't want a new version of Harvest Moon. I want the one that's in my heart and my head, and I want to hear it the way it is. When I do my jazz stuff, when I first started touring with these jazz guys, after the first night, which people loved, I went to them the next night. At the end of the night, I said, "Did you forget your piano solo?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "The solo you did last night that was so good, you didn't do the same solo tonight." And he looked at me and said, "This is jazz, man. You do whatever is in your heart and your head at the moment. You played the same solo tonight. It was boring." I went, "What?" So the next night I went to the Edge and played a bunch of weird stuff that was like, I thought was mistakes because it wasn't what it was
supposed to be.
But they all thought it was great. There's no such thing as a bad note in jazz. It's called the transition note. You're going from one good note to the other. What you hit between doesn't matter. If you hit on the 1 and the 3, your downbeat and your backbeats 2 and 4, those are the good notes. In between, you play any note you want or leave some space. So I kind of like doing it all. It's really kind of great. And then trying to create a new kind of music with this wonderful guy we have in Nashville who's our lawyer. His name is Jim Zumwalt. He was responsible for Tanya Tucker's big comeback last year, and she won a couple of Grammys and a couple of Americana Music Awards and Country Music Awards. He likes me and Tal because we're like underdogs. People think we're over, we're done, we're finished. He gave us a couple of assignments. We filled the assignments. He's going, "You guys are going to be the first father-son act that's not a dad playing with his son. You are a 50-50 act. You do that, he does this, you're 50-50. He's not under your wing, he is your equal." So when I get a gig from my manager, I'll say, "Is this for Bachman? Because the money that we split on this end is different. If it's for my band, I got to pay my whole band, and we're doing a rock set of 90 minutes at a pop festival in Penticton or Toronto. And so I have to like compartmentalize where are these offers coming from and then how am I going to do it. But whatever configuration I am, Tal's always kind of there with me. He can drum, he plays piano, he plays bass, he sings. If I have a problem singing, he can emulate my voice. And he's a much better musician than I am. And it's going to be really fun. And I could count on him. If you see our broadcasts, in the middle of something, I'm stumbling, I'll just go take it. And he'll rip into a solo and I go into the rhythm and stuff like that. Because it's a song I don't know where the chords are going, right? So I can't play a lead because it's too weird. So we kind of I don't know, just like any good duo, like if you look at any great duets of whoever, Lennon and McCartney, they kind of read what each other was going to do, or they hoped it would happen. I'm going to throw this ball there, and if you're in the end zone, we're going to have a touchdown. I throw the ball, and of course you're there, and you catch it, and we win the game. It's that kind of a weird, wonderful, intuitive feeling that when it happens, you do get the try, you do get the touchdown, whatever.
And I just got to say, as a Montrealer, that's what I love about a lot of our Canadian artists. We're still keeping it real. I go to a lot of these big shows that are in Vegas and everybody's running track. I mean, how offensive would it be for you if somebody said, "Hey, Randy, how about you just run some track tonight and you just stand there?" Wouldn't that just kill you on the inside?
Yeah, it does. Tal and I have discussed that a lot. And he's saying, "No, that's too loungy.
Yeah.
Like I could go to a karaoke bar and 12 of my songs are in there. And I could just stand up and sing." But people don't want that. They want to see me playing the guitar and how I wrote the song.
Yes, they want it live.
Everything I've seen on the YouTube where a guy's there showing someone how to play my song, it's wrong. It's how he thinks my song was played, but there's some little thing that's wrong that I do that only I do because it's the way I play guitar, the way I write a song. So there's something about doing the real thing. And I'm working with somebody in Montreal right now.
Who?
Are you familiar with Bette and Steph?
Yes.
Okay, I'm working with her. She's now called Elizabeth 11.
Yes, I also know the Damn Truth. It's a great vibrant scene out here.
And she's a very bossa nova lady, and I just sent her a song for my jazz album to sing on.
Oh, wow.
We're working back and forth, maybe once a week. And so she's now called Elizabeth 11. She got into numerology, which is something really cool, which I wasn't aware of. And so she's called E11, or her name is Elizabeth Provencher, her real name, and she was in Bette and Steph.
Oh, wow. All right, I'm going to check that out. Folks, of course, Bachman and Bachman is December 17th. You can hear it on Jazz Point FM 91. It'll be streamed simultaneously on YouTube, Facebook. You can also head over to torontojazz.com. Alan, any last words?
Say hello to Sugar. Can you see Sugar in my shoulder?
No
Yeah.
sugar tonight.
Yeah, great. You're being attacked. And Randy, as we say in Montreal... As we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. An absolute pleasure. And thank you for everything you've done for Canadian music over the years.
Thanks
Randy,
to both of you
great to
guys.
meet you. Be well. Be safe out there.
Yeah, if a gig comes up in Montreal, give me a call, okay?
Absolutely. I would love to. I mean, I've seen you before and I want to see it again. So let's do it.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.